Pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten, hung in a hallway where no door can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist. Testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list, an administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Documents stacked floor to the wall, top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Downtown tents lining the street, invisible people that power won't need. Hide them away so the cameras can't find it. Proof of a system that's cold and unkind, of chaotic secret and NDA sign, an illegal bribe. Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag cause he was much shorter. If you can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
Trump piled debt, trillions tall, promised Mexico would fund that wall. Praised dictators, said they're strong. Had Joe done it, they'd say he's wrong. Had Biden done it, MAGA would flip. Had Biden done it,
self-proclaimed king, a groper in chief, stealing our country, a crooked orange thief. Faux patriots who are poorly educated, wearing red hats and also unvaccinated. Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, the animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. A failing media that's barely treading water. They're too inept to fight this new world order. Corporate pigs are at the trough, hear the squeals. The swine won't bite the hands that feeds them meals. But Liberal Dan will see us flow. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk comes the left, that's right. A leftist voice on air, exposing MAGA treason, breaking through their lies with facts, logic, and reason. Unmasking hypocrisy, the truth will be our guide. Call out their lies, justice is on our side. 'Cause Liberal Dan will see us through. It's the best show that you're not listening to. So when you hear the call, animals unite. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right.
Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. We're going to skip the regular pleasantries because I have a guest waiting on the line. Back in 2004, I once, back in the day, ran for Louisiana's 1st Congressional District, and I have a kindred. I always like to support the kindred spirits who like to, give it a good shot in that district as well. We have Lauren Jewett, who is a nationally board certified, easy for me to say, special education teacher, proud union member, 16 years of experience in Louisiana's public and charter schools, also represents the 1st Congressional District Caucus in the Louisiana Democratic Party Executive Committee, is elected to the State Central Committee for District 78A, and is an at-large member of the Jefferson Parish Democratic Executive Committee, another body that I also served on. So without further ado, Lauren Jewett, thank you for coming on the program. Appreciate having you.
Hi, thanks for having me tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Sorry about a little of extended. I think I played one extra song than I needed to, but anyway, yeah, I've been using AI to make my own kind of music, and actually it's turning out much better than I expected. So instead of having to worry about copyright strikes, I just make my own. So
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, they've actually. I've been surprised with some of them. I wrote a song about the whole case in Atlanta, about them, keeping her on life support just so they can gestate or whatever. And I made a whole song called Baby Incubators, and it slaps. I mean, it really does. It amazing how well AI did with it. But we're not here to talk about me and my songs. We're here to talk about you and your campaign. So introduce yourself to the viewing audience and to everybody else who might watch later.
Yeah, so my name's Lauren Jewett. I am a public school special education teacher, and I am running in the Democratic closed party primary which will be happening on April 18th, 2026, for the first congressional district. So that is the seat that is held by Steve Scalise. As you said in my intro, I have lots of different roles that I play in the community, but I definitely hold tightly to the fact that I am a teacher. That is very important to me as my day-to-day profession. But there's so much more. And there's, I think, so much more that we're facing in our state, in our country. And I feel that it's important to get that perspective out and to run an honest campaign that is on working class issues and what we are facing, because I feel that I am connected to those and in reach with those and in proximity to the issues that people face every day. So that's partly why I'm getting in the race. Yes, I'm a teacher, but I also think I have that connection to what people are facing right now, with groceries being high and insurance being high, and people just frankly watching a lot of our democratic institutions not function the way that they're meant to.
Right. And that's very concerning to everybody. Although, we do have a bunch of people who voted for Steve Scalise, every time around. So I don't know how much the people in the first are too worried about it. So how are you planning on kind of reaching out to the people and trying to find common ground with the voters who might not traditionally want to vote for somebody who's running as a Democrat? Or at least at this point, I guess we should roll back a second. Is there anybody else running in the Democratic primary that you know of other than yourself?
As far as I know, in terms of officially announcing, I haven't heard of anybody. Now, in terms of FEC filing, we have seen that there's one other person that has filed, but that's just filing. That, it's going to be a matter of a few months once we qualify in January that we'll really know who's going to be in the race for the closed party primary. And obviously in that race, I'll have to get Democratic registered voters to vote for me, but then we also have this new issue where no party voters can choose if they're going to vote on the Democratic ticket or on the Republican ticket. So I will be able to do outreach to those voters, and I think that there's quite a lot of them in Louisiana, as we know. Some of those people also used to be, I guess, independent voters. So. Yes, I'll have to, get past that first part, but I think we're looking also long-term in the hopes that we will be the nominee. And I'm not a stranger to getting people from a different party to vote for me. I previously have run for office. I ran in 2022 in Jefferson Parish for the school board. And then I ran for the state school board in 2023. So I did knock on doors of voters that were not of my same party. And it was really talking about issues that we have collectively in common. And so I think that there are things that don't look to what party letter is behind your name. We talk about things like health insurance, right? I've just people today just told me that open enrollment is right around the corner for some people. Mine usually happens a little bit earlier in the year being a teacher, but a lot of people's happen right at the start of the year, and they said their health insurance premiums are going up, right? And this is happening to everybody. It doesn't matter if they're a Democrat, Republican, no party. Insurance, right? Insurance is going up for everybody. So when we're talking about a lot of kitchen table issues and issues that affect people's wallets, those are things that are happening a lot of times regardless of what party people have. And I do think that there are people that are not in my Democratic Party, but are of maybe who have voted for Scalise before, people who have reached out to me and said, they're just very dismayed, even though they have supported him in the past. So I think it's about, one, talking about issues-based things and not getting into so much of the partisan politics, because I think a little bit on both sides. There's been a lot of rhetoric thrown on both sides, and that can be off-putting to many people. That's maybe why a lot of people are no party voters.
Right.
So I think I always go back to issues, and that was something that I found when I ran for school board. I was able to connect with people on a different level when I talked about, of course, it was an area that I had more expertise in because of being a teacher. But people were more willing to listen when we got past that. Some
Right.
people were very interested in the party line, but in some states you can't even list party line for school board races. It has to be a nonpartisan thing. Obviously,
Hmm.
that's not the case for Congress.
Right.
But I see myself as, although I'm a part of the party leadership on the local and state level of the Democratic Party, I also, I'm somebody who, if I think that something is not working, I'm going to try to see, like, where can we find solutions, even if it's something that I disagree with in my own party. Of course, there's values and principles, and there's a platform, which we should be advocating on certain issues for. But I also see when my party is not doing the right thing, and I
Right.
will call that out. And like, I think that there is that level to the way that I try to connect with people, and also as a teacher, right? I'm We don't talk about the politics and stuff in the classroom, but what I'm saying is, when I'm in the classroom, right, or in a school, we're welcoming everybody who comes in, and we're there to serve everybody. And so I think as a teacher, I'm used to doing public service, and I'm used to having to welcome, serve, and listen to all different types of students, all different types of families. And so I think I'm well suited to just making sure people feel listened to and heard, because I think for many people in the district, a lot of them are not either aware of how policies and issues are impacting them, and secondly, they are maybe not even having a mechanism in which to have their voices heard. And I
Right.
know that that's been a major concern of people in the district, because there has not been town halls in this district. We have had virtual town halls. I don't know if you've been, um, the recipient of those virtual calls. I've personally been the recipient of one of those calls, and you have to pick up when you get it
Right.
because.
Not yet, but like, we'll see about that. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely times, like you mentioned the party, where for a while I actually registered no party and stopped being Democrat for a little bit because I was annoyed at what some of the things that the party did. But I came back and re-registered for 2020. But but one day after this election is over, I'd like to have you back just to discuss party issues as well. But I mean, we don't want to get too bogged down with that. And you mentioned insurance costs, and we do have the fact that the question is, one of the reasons why we have the government shutdown going on right now is because is that they won't commit, the Republicans won't commit to renewing the Affordable Care Act subsidies. And of course, the Affordable Care Act is one of the interesting things, because if you ask people how they feel about Obamacare, they'll say, "Oh, I hate it," and then you ask people about individual portions of that. Of the Affordable Care Act, and they're like, "Oh, I like that. I like that. I like that they can't do rescission. I like that, there's a maximum amount of pocket, where you can't spend too much in any particular year." So the individual parts of the Affordable Care Act, just people like, and people support it, and they're not going to be very happy when the subsidies are away and they start seeing their insurance bills go sky high for health insurance. But you also, on your website, talking about the flood insurance and other homeowners insurance rates that are going up. And like mine personally, I had last year, my flood insurance was 400 something a month, or no, I'm sorry, a year, 400
Mm-hmm.
something a year, and this year the renewal rate is over 1,000. And so yeah,
Yep.
it's hitting everybody. And what can Congress do to help the people who are dealing with these increased costs?
I mean, I think some of that goes to some of those insurance issues happen on a state level. So I think it's, how are you building relationships with the people in the state legislatures, right? Um, Here in Louisiana and possibly other states, especially states that are dealing with insurance issues like Florida, California, Texas, there we have a lot of these climate natural disaster issues. I mean, we also have issues with our auto insurance here in Louisiana. But I think we have to find a way to have some kind of federal oversight for some of this, or like, because a lot of these are private insurance companies, and so they're going to do what they will, and some of them have pulled out. Like I experienced that back in 2021 after Ida. I had been in my home for about 6 or 7 years. I had the same insurance company, didn't really ever have to file a claim. Had to file the claim because I had roof damage. I had my entire carport was damaged and destroyed. And so I had to put in my claim, and I had to get a whole new roof, and I had to get all the stuff. But then a year after that, my insurance company pulled out. Like they weren't in here anymore. So then I had to go with another one. Of course, my premium went up. I live in an ex-flood zone, so I technically don't have to purchase the flood insurance, but I always have. And like yourself, I think it was a couple $100, and now I think it's over 1,000. And I see my street like flood more frequently than it used to. Again, it's not like I'm being pushed to purchase the flood insurance, but it's
rough. Yeah, because with
rough.
mine, I absolutely, I'm also in that situation. I don't have to get it, so it's not on my escrow account. So that even makes it hit even harder, because when it's on your escrow account, it comes out monthly. Now I have to come up with $1,000 right now. Before we continue, I do want to make a shout out to Hal Sparks and the Sparklers, who have rated over on Twitch. Thank you so much. We have on Lauren Jewett, a congressional candidate in the 1st Congressional District. So I want to thank all of y'all from coming over from Hal's to here, and just, introduce you to my very special guest. And we will get to other topics when Lauren goes away, but we will be talking about her campaign for a little bit. But thank you all for coming in and supporting the show. Appreciate y'all. Anyway, back to insurance costs. One of the things I found that, the state does when it comes to insurance, of course, that's not your purview as somebody who's running for Congress, unless you were doing some regulation of how states handle this, is we do a lot of giveaways. Like, we do a lot of, like, we basically make concessions to these companies who are unwilling to take on bad risk. They only want to take on good risk. For example, if you're coming into Louisiana, they'll be like, okay, well, you can write in this district and in this parish and parts of this parish and other parts of this parish if you want to, but if you don't want to write in the areas that are low, that are the high risk areas, fine, we'll just dump that all on citizens. But to me, I've worked in insurance before. I'm a software developer, but I still worked in the insurance industry. I kind of understood how insurance is supposed to work. Is you're supposed to be able to offset high risk with low risk. And that's one of the things I think we made a huge mistake with when we federalized the National Flood Insurance Program, is that we dumped all that high risk flood insurance stuff onto the government without allowing the government to pick up all of the good risk. And we let the insurance companies take the rest, which is the easier risk, the much more, easy to deal with risk. And so, but to me, there's got to be something that could be done where we can tell an insurance company, look, you can do business, but you have to do business in the whole state or not at all, or else you're not operating in a way that insurance is supposed to work.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, let's the next thing on your issues, defending Social Security and Medicare. What dangers do you see going on with Social Security and Medicare, and what ideas are you going to bring when it comes to that?
So a lot of people have brought this up. Of course, and I have this on the website, but like the average age, right, of people in the district is about 40. So, not super young, but like, I mean, I live in Jefferson Parish. So like, it isn't like, I found like there were older voters and stuff when I was knocking on the doors, and, people who had owned their home for a long time. So, I mean, the area of some of the neighborhoods around my voting precinct tend to be older, and we have obviously people are concerned about a lot of the cuts, especially from the bill that was passed this summer, and we're paying into the Social Security, but then we've got these cuts, right? And we have a huge amount of people who rely on Medicare in our state. I don't think people realize that. So it's like part of my role, I think, in this campaign as a candidate is also to help people understand how many people rely on things like Medicare, also things like Medicaid, and that like we're all going to get older at some point, right? And
Right.
if we're not going to get older, we know somebody who is
Hopefully.
older that we care about in our life. And it it is incumbent on us to make sure that we are also caring for those people. Like these are elderly people, I think, are often like, or people that become disabled at some point in life. Like they're gonna we need to have care for them, and we need to also have services that allow them to have a quality of life. And so these are people, especially our elderly folks, like they have provided services for us. They have set foundation for us. So we need to make sure that we are continuing to have program in place for them. And I mean, Social Security has been around. I think it's been 90 years. I think this past summer, has been around for a long time. Now, of course, there's things that we can revise in it and look at, but to completely get away of something that has been working for folks, and that, I mean, when I get older, I'm like, what's going to happen? Like, or what's going to happen to, my mother, or, my aunts and uncles. Like, I can't be in a position to also like provide financially completely for these people, because I know people who are my age bracket or younger are also struggling.
Right.
So how do we bridge that? Because I think in the past, I think that was a feasibility, but now it's like we have young people and people 20s, 30s, they're struggling. They are struggling. So how are they then therefore to take care of like elderly people in their lives who have no safety net? So I think that's something that we have to definitely look at, keep in mind.
Absolutely. Again, everybody, we have Lauren Jewett on, candidate in the 1st Congressional District for the Democratic primary and the closed party primary that's new here in the state of Louisiana, because I disagree with that. I think it was a dumb move, but whatever. But anyway, I've pinned the link to your issues page at laurenjewett.com on both the Twitch and YouTube channel. So if anybody wants to go check that out, also in this YouTube show description, if you're watching after the live broadcast, you can also click and go to her website there. Now, as an educator, you list obviously education and having stronger schools for the children, investing in expanding pre-K4 programs. I think it's a shame that we don't have a situation where every state should have universal pre-K4. It shouldn't just be a state-by-state thing. There's so much that needs to be done. Like, what are some of the big issues that you think you bring in as not only just an educator, but as somebody who is an educator of children with special needs? What do you see as some of the most vital things to deal with as somebody who would represent us in Congress?
Well, I think first, as a teacher, right? Teachers get stuff done, and we know how to get stuff done with limited resources. So if we're talking about how we can't get this budget figured out, like, I know how to cut corners in a quality way because I've had to do that for years as a teacher. So I think that perspective is very important. And then when we talk about, I mean, my concern as I've been watching things unfold, and I kind of knew this, right, because I was reading all the things last summer, Project 2025, seeing what the potential plans and policies were going to be, right? One of those was get rid of the Department of Education. And as we have seen, that stuff has already been happening. They've been cut, the positions have been cut, the grants, I mean, specifically for IDEA, teacher training, all those things have been either completely defunded, or they're starting to get rid of those. And that's highly concerning to me, because as a teacher, I just mentioned, like, we know how to do without, but that doesn't mean we should do without. We know how to be scrappy and resourceful, but when we're talking about the care and the services and the education of kids, we need a lot in order for that to be quality and good. And so my concern is that my job and my colleagues' jobs is already very unsustainable and untenable. And I worry that what it's going to come to. And it's going to be what, maybe bigger class sizes or bigger caseloads, and then the quality of services that children receive gets diluted, or the oversight for civil rights for those kids that people have fought very hard to ensure are in the law for kids that have disabilities, kids that come from marginalized backgrounds, kids that receive English language learning services, like all of those things are very vital, but people had to fight for those. And so now we don't have oversight when you had people in place whose role it was maybe federally to like deal with the money, deal with the rights implementation. And so, I mean, I would I would try to ensure that we get those things back, but it's very hard to see all the years and decades of work be undone very rapidly. So I mean, that's a little bit why I would say I'm kind of in the race too, because I feel like if my job and my colleagues' jobs can be, you know, if that's going to be coming at, like, people are going to be coming after our jobs, then we need to also put people on notice who are making those decisions. And I feel like and that's why when I did the virtual town hall, I think it was, I just happened to pick up the phone, and I did get on the line, and I was able to ask Congressman Scalise a question, and I asked him about I addressed my concern about the Department of Education and what was being planned for it. And I mean, he gave me the honest answer that he would give, and he said that he supported everything that President Trump was planning on doing, and he believed that the state's education stuff should be back with the states. And as we've seen, the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, has been going on her tours about returning education to the states. And I was really dismayed to hear like that, even though I knew that was probably going to be the response. I still was like, okay, I'm hearing this now. This is how you feel. There's a lot of state functions around education, but then there's also things that federally we know are in place because states were not doing those things, such as civil rights protections for students. And we have lots of evidence in our state of Louisiana where we have not done right by students with disabilities. There's been lots of legislative audits done for the State Department of Education in Louisiana about how things have not been followed for kids with disabilities, and that has come from parent advocacy. And I will say that it has come from parent advocacy on both sides of the party line. So you know, there's this, my heart hurts for the families that are hearing lots of things recently in the news about how they're the ones who have caused their children's disability or autism and all this misinformation. When you really work with families with disabilities, and I have family members myself who have disabilities, you see that is really not the whole picture. And so I've seen it from the family side and the education side. And we owe it to those families and those kids to ensure that those kids get protections, and that they get the quality of services. So I would ensure that we continue to get those, and like, we need to roll back what's been done. I know that's going to take time if I got in there, but I will definitely be an advocate, as I've always been, for those groups of kids.
Yeah, because I have a kid with an IEP, and, you know, when I heard that Linda frickin' McMahon, you know, from WWE fame, was going to be in charge of education, I was like, what? How are they going to do, like, discipline with metal chairs or something? And then, you know, she's going along with, I want to end the Department of Education and put it back. I don't trust Louisiana at all. I don't trust Landry. I don't trust Muriel. I don't trust anybody to be able to actually be trustworthy and trusted to do the right thing, as you said, when it comes to the needs of individuals who have special needs, the needs of, you know, making sure that, you know, we're following the civil rights protections properly. You know, one of the reasons we have these civil rights laws is because certain states prove themselves to be untrustworthy. And I've made the common I've made this comment frequently, like, you know, when like Roberts struck down the Voting Rights Act, or when in his ruling he basically said, oh, we haven't had a need for the Voting Rights Act because these states haven't done anything terrible. It's like, oh, we don't need the levees in the Mississippi River now because the Mississippi River hasn't flooded from, you know, the city. Well, the reason we haven't flooded is because we have the levees, and you take away the levees and we're screwed. Right. So that's how I feel with their, you know, oh, we don't need this anymore. No, it's working. That's why we do need it.
Because they're proactive measures, like,
yes.
And that's making it work. Like you said, we're like, we can't, it's not trying to be reactive to situations. And this is the thing I've been reading about in all different sectors that have been the recipients of the cuts and the Doge. It's like you're not even setting up a plan in place when you're removing all these experts or people who've been, you know, in their roles for a long time. And I don't disagree with having some kind of restructuring. I think that should be reviewed periodically, but like you can't flat out get rid of everybody, because you lose the institutional knowledge, and then the people that are replaced with that or are left behind, have more work to do. And then a lot of times, if you're replacing people in kind of civil servant roles, it's probably going to be people who are loyalists to this administration, and they probably don't know what they're doing. Like, and so that's a big problem. We need people who know what they're doing. I mean, like, that's what that some of these people who are losing their jobs are the people in charge of this money and these grants that then go to the states. Like, so it's actually very important.
So I'm skipping down a little bit on your list just because I wanted to make sure to get to this one. You have on your website, protect our coast and communities. Now, when I ran in 2004, the district was vastly different. A, we had 7 districts, and B, it was pretty much, it stopped in New Orleans and Jefferson and went all the way up to Washington Parish, and, you know, covered Tangipahoa, St. Tammany, etc., and then some of Jefferson, some of Orleans. You actually have the coastline on the district that you want to represent. I made it. I got one of the best responses I had on the campaign trail, which I wish I took this person's phone number. Is I was like, I'm the only person in this race who's making it a priority for coastal restoration and hurricane protection. And the person was like, well, we live on the North Shore. We don't care about that. I'm like, you'll care when gas hits $4 a gallon after a big storm. He was like, that'll never happen. And then a year later, Katrina hits, and it happened, and I was like, oh, I wish I had his number so bad. But yeah, I mean, you say on your website, we have oil companies, they're drilling, all the other work that comes with drilling has done damage to our coast, and we need an advocate who's going to make sure that not only that they pay for the damage that is done, but that we can work to repair the damage that has already been done as well, to make sure that we don't have more catastrophes. Because people don't live in Louisiana might not understand this, but for every, you know, acre of land lose, that's less land that the hurricanes have to go over and become more weak. So the less land you have, the more devastating the storms can be as they come on the shore. So what are some things? Do you have any specific plans, or do you just are just basically out there saying, look, we need to support this because we're not doing a good enough job of this? I mean, I think, am I correct in saying that the Trump administration has basically reduced or eliminated the drive-by checks on the levees being done by the Army Corps of Engineers?
Yeah, they're not doing those levee inspections. I think they either have stopped or reduced them. So
what could go wrong?
I'm continuing to meet with people, talk with people who live in the district, and I just say, hey, tell me what your concerns are. Like, I don't go in and tell them what my platform is. This was before I even announced. I was just having conversations with folks, and they definitely brought up the coast and the area in which we live in this district of being very vulnerable to storms, devastating storms. And now, like you said, the district has changed since you ran in 2004. It's majority St. Tammany and Jefferson, and then of course we've got a good part of Orleans, but then we've got 7 other parishes in there, and a lot of those are those little fringe parishes, 20, 30 precincts there here, but a lot of those are in the coast. So when we
Right.
look at Jefferson Parish, right, I've got Lafitte, we've got Barataria, we've got Grand Isle, then we've got these parts of Lafourche and Plaquemines and St. Bernard. And I mean, these are coastal areas. And I think what I have framed it is that my job on a day-to-day basis, right? I'm helping and serving some of our forgotten, overlooked, vulnerable populations. And I think that there are parts of this district now, and people may not even be aware that they are actually in District 1 because of the constant changes over time, with the gerrymandering and the redistricting. That they're overlooked, right? I don't know how active our congressman has been in going into those communities and talking about, like, hey, like, what are you concerned about that has to deal with coastal issues, and what do you see, right? Because there's a lot of fishing industries and maritime industries that are in those areas, that have particular concerns that maybe aren't getting heard. So I mean, my interest is also hearing from those, because I don't think that there's been engagement in a sense. And like you said, there's a lot of potential for things to go wrong quickly with storms. And I want to include this as something, because like I said, I think that there are people who are not aware of how these policies are directly going to hurt them, like the lack of levee protection inspections now, the cuts to NOAA. I think just recently they're not doing the in Barataria, there's like a diversion project, I think, that like has just been recently affected. I just saw that in recently in the news. So there's a lot of issues like we talked about earlier with insurance. I mean, if you go down to Lafitte, I mean, there are still people with blue tarps on their homes. And this is now 4 years later, over 4 years later from some Hurricane Ida. And I'm sure that there's other parts of the district that are still dealing with that storm impact as well. So I mean, we've been lucky to not have a storm like Ida like in the last few hurricane seasons, but it's only a matter of time. And I did evacuate for that storm, but I don't know, like I just saw what was happening in those coastal communities, and that is a major top of mind, I know, for those communities. So I as much as we can bring more funding and projects to help with that, but also I said, like, inform people of what is this administration and our congressman actively doing in terms of votes that are harming that community, because I think that's, again, we have to bring voter education and awareness, and talk about the connection between policy and impact. And right now, like, we have to connect that for people, and say, this is what's been voted on. This is what the potential is for it to impact your community. Oh, look at, like, you're still being impacted by a storm that happened a few years ago. So yeah, I don't live right on the coast, but I do care about what happens, because what happens there affects us here. It's gonna continue to move up from where those areas are.
Right. Another one you say on your platform, you list affordable housing, stronger communities. Tell us a little more about some of the information about that you might, where you think you could be effective as a congressperson on those issues, and what needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's lots of issues on a local and state level. I mean, right now, I mean, in New Orleans, you hear people talking all about the affordable housing stuff because that's a big major issue that people are talking about for municipal races. But I think, you know, I was lucky to buy my home when I did. I bought it a decade ago, but I wouldn't have been able to buy it without, you know, certain federal programs in place. And so, like, if we can continue to ensure that people have access to those, that we are continuing to uphold practices that prevent discriminatory practices in the housing market, because home ownership is a pathway to wealth, and and obviously, like, I think people are concerned about probably maybe buying property and homes in a state like ours where insurance is very high, and like you have to, like, I keep worrying about the potential, like, where, okay, when's the next like year, or within the next year, am I going to continue to be able to afford my home? Am I going to be priced out of my home because of the insurance issue? So I think that the affordability of homes and people like going to buy homes, being able to buy homes, it does go hand in hand with the insurance issues that we are facing. But yeah, having more programs in place that allow people to have a pathway to home ownership, and do so in a way that supports their goals, supports their ability to afford other things, right? How do we see it in our country, people even thinking about buying a home when they can't afford eggs? Right. So people might be looking at things, right, on a more short-term cycle, and they're not thinking long-term, not because they don't want to, but because there's a restriction on what they're able to actually do. So, you know, we're trying to talk about how do we build wealth, and build it for all people, right? Because right now, you know, there's an unequal distribution of wealth. We have to have programs that support people in being able to do that. Like, I mean, I was able to do it, but I don't see how I could do it now. Like, I was able to do it back then, but given the way things are, I don't know if I would be able to do it in the way things are economically right now. So, I think housing is a human right, and people should have access to safe and quality housing, whether they're going to rent or they're going to purchase a home. I think that's vitally important. And I know many people who have to move out of areas because they're like, I can't even afford to live here. The rent is too expensive. And that shouldn't be the case, because we are the wealthiest, like one of the wealthiest countries in the world, and we have people who can't have access to housing.
Right. I think you said under like there are like 52 available low-income spots for every 100 low-income families or something. Is that what you're saying on your site?
Yes. 52 affordable units available for every 100 low-income households. So, I think when we talk about access to quality housing, right? It's also housing that is close by to where you work. It's close by to public transit, like all of those things. Like, because I've also been in a situation where I've had to drive really far from where like I lived versus where I worked, and that was a choice at the time. But you know, most people like to be relatively close, right, to where they work, or to be able to bike to work, or to use public transit and functional public transit. So, you know, but if their housing affordability options are farther away, right, then it's going to take them longer to get to work, and then that just makes a lot of other things.
Yeah, it just snowballs on itself with the problems that it creates because it's less time
Yeah.
that you have to spend with your kids. It helps your kids study, bring your kids to school, yada yada
Yeah.
yada. So there's we've dealt with that ourselves, and we've seen that happen to other people.
Yeah.
And one other thing, you list infrastructure on your website. Where you want to talk about infrastructure. We had both under President Biden, we had the infrastructure bill that created a broadband, for example, for rural communities. And of course, our governor, Jeff Landry, implemented his Gumbo 2.0, which gave Biden zero credit for what he did for it to help create it. And then, of course, Trump then pulled the funding on it. And for Louisiana, I think New Jersey, Delaware and Nevada. I think those are the three states that were originally approved for those funds, and then it just got yanked. And I haven't quite yet seen Landry be annoyed about that, because he wasn't giving Biden any credit. But how then is he going to then blame Trump for taking his money away? So. And of course, increasing broadband is important. Gives people more access to information, and of course, you also we have Interstate 10, Interstate 12 that cut through the district, cut through the state. Many places I-10 is only 2 lanes wide, and you say on your website that traffic is on I-10 is expected to grow 30% by 2032. So, what kind of priorities do you think? Where do you think, either do you think Scalise is failing us as it pertains to the building of infrastructure, or what could you do or what would you do in Congress to kind of push the importance of the infrastructure fixes and enhancements that we need in the state of Louisiana and for District 1?
Yeah. I mean, when I've drove in other states, sometimes I just look at their interstates and I'm like, why are these like so much nicer? Like sometimes and this is, we all know the issues with the streets in New Orleans. That's not a congressional issue.
Right.
But when we're talking about interstates, right, and bridges, right, there's a lot of bridges like in this District 1. And I mean, I feel relatively safe driving over the causeway or the twin span. But I do know, like, right, in a congressional role, it's not just about the district. It is about the district. It's also about the state, right? It's about lots of projects that we can help with the state of Louisiana. And I know there's a lot of bridges that have been in very precarious positions. I've seen them reported on, or they're like, okay, this bridge is going to be closed because it is aging. There's potential for it to not function and carry the strength or the weight that it's supposed to. And like some of these bridges are on evacuation routes. Like you said, some of these are not multiple lanes. So that doesn't help when people are trying to move out of the state when it is an evacuation measure, or just like you said, more commute. Like if you're trying to build more commerce across the state, but you don't have the infrastructure to support it, like they go hand in hand. So I definitely think that we need to take a look at these bridges, roads, interstates, ports that need to have some review on, okay, how can we improve these, and like what's it going to cost, like how can we get that in the budget, how can we bring money back to the district, right? Because I see that as an importance of things that we need to do as a congressional delegation, is to bring that money back to the state, back to our districts. And I do think Scalise has worked on some bipartisan things. I know with Congressman Carter on things to help with certain levels of infrastructure, and even with like things like flooding. But I think that there's more room for that. And we look at Louisiana always being the bottom of a lot of things. And I think that's very tied to infrastructure, and like infrastructure is very connected to how we move, right? How are we moving around our area? And people need to feel safe to be moving around, and not have their tires
Right.
blow out, or like not like, be stuck in traffic, or have the potential for some sort of danger happening, like on a bridge that has been overdue. Because I think that we're aware of that some of these things need to be inspected and done, but are they are the pieces moving along to make that happen? And of course that stuff takes time, but like we shouldn't be waiting on it if it's an urgent need.
So I guess before we finish up, as you know, I had my little story about the guy that I spoke to, and I was like, I really wish I had his phone number now because it'd be like, haha, you said it never happened and it did. Have you had any humorous or fun things from the campaign trail yet that just kind of stands out in your mind that is like enjoyable or funny, or anything that just otherwise maybe rewarding that you felt has happened so far in this campaign that you're running?
We haven't really had a ton of like door knocks or anything like that happen yet. But I don't know, like I'd have to think if there's like been a funny anecdote. I think the response overwhelmingly has been positive, from folks, um, to hear that I'm running. I do think we have to continue to run people. I don't think seats should go contested, or sorry, should go uncontested, because people should have a choice, and should and we should be pushing each other to discuss the issues, because I think that's where people learn. And that's really what I want my campaign to be about. This is not like we have a long the person I am running against, he's got a long record. And so there's lots of votes to look at. There's lots of policies to look at. I don't have that same thing to pull from right on the
Right.
side. But what I can say is that I have spent 17 years working in like service to the public as a teacher. So while I haven't been a state legislator in the House, right, or the Senate in Louisiana, such as Steve Scalise has been, or Speaker Mike Johnson, right, because they got their start as state legislators. Like they were in the hallways learning how to do all the you know policy talk, but like I've been in the hallways of classrooms, and so like I have served people that way, right? I have also like been driving on our roadways in New Orleans, like trying to provide food to food insecure families, like who are worried about their SNAP benefits being cut. And so I've given a life to public service. I am meant to do public service. And so I'm excited to get on the trail more and talk to people, and hopefully have a good anecdote like yourself. Maybe not say I told you so, but just
Right.
like listen from more people, because I feel more connected to our state and to the community when I get a chance to talk to people and hear what they're going through, because I don't know everything that's happening in District 1. But the only way we're going to learn what's happening in District 1 is by running a campaign that is focused on listening to the people, so that we can know from like Plaquemines to the parts of Ascension, to the parts of St. Tammany, to the parts of Orleans and Jefferson. Like we're gonna like hear patterns of what people feel, and then hear some nuances and differences, and how do we encapsulate that so we're doing we're doing right by those people, and hopefully have a congressperson in there who's going to be the best representative for them.
Perfect. Well, I mean, we currently the live listeners, not a lot of people from Louisiana, but a lot of people have given some positive feedback, just like kind of I agree, yes, or whatever, so anything in the chat. So apparently, you've made a good impression on my audience, and hopefully, I'd love to have you back at some point. Give us a campaign update whenever you feel like coming on. Just have open
Yeah,
invitation to come on, either
absolutely.
video or calling in or whatever. And again, anything else you want to close out with, or?
No, I appreciated the invite and the time, and I definitely would love to come back once we're up and rolling more. Maybe in December, January. January is our qualifying time.
All right, perfect. Sounds great. And again, that's laurenjewett.com. The link is both in the show description and pinned to each chat thread on Twitch and on YouTube. So thank you very much for joining, and I look forward to talking to you again, and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. And again, that was Lauren Jewett, a candidate for the Democratic Party, District 1 in the state of Louisiana. Head on over to the website. Again, just as you would do with the videos and ever, share them with your friends. Share the website with your friends. Hey, there's somebody who is on Liberal Dan. We like her as a candidate. We want to see her win the Democratic primary and then go on and beat Steve Scalise in the fall. So thank you very much again, Lauren, for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. But other stuff we want to talk about today, we've got, wanted to go over briefly some of a more, 30,000 foot point of view thing as it pertained to Pete Hegseth and his plans for how he wants to change the Department of War, as he is now calling it, as they are now calling it. So yeah, the Department of War wants to make a whole bunch of changes. We're going to go over some of those things in a bit, because we went over the big video, but I think there was a couple of points that I think we could kind of make into a kind of shorter video. Maybe like, hey, here's what old Petey says. Let's go ahead and we can put the chat page up as well. Just have me up there as well whilst we're talking. I do want to say hello to everybody. Again, thank you everyone for so far, and we still got a bunch of people who are stayed in for the long haul. Listen to the interview with Lauren Jewett. We got Camp Stop Lions, Sweet Mel, Sarah, a bunch of other people who Cosmic Rose, who came in on the House Sparks raid over there on Twitch. Of course, Aaron is over there, as well as Orvilby, as normal. And over here on the chat, we got Molly, Suzanne. We got both halves of the mod squad. Roxanne, Jackie, Steve from across the pond,
it's no Scottish, it's crap.
Josh, Jeff from just north of Uranus, Dawn, let's see, if I forget you, I apologize. Alton Gillespie's here. Bonnie, good to see you as well. Just kind of scroll on up. One Vision, Uno Visión is in the chat. Let's see what else. Nobody would be surprised to know that it's, Seha, right? Don't give away my secret identity. I kind of noticed that. MJ Daniel, Feed on the Dashboard. Good to see you. Trucker John is in the house. Good to see you, Trucker John. Petrazi 20. Tim. Some of y'all, I don't know if some of y'all are still around or not, but Molly, joy to see you. Kevin. Teresa. Hey, good to see you, Teresa, as well. Thank you for joining, if you're still around. Excuse me. Who else? Again, I wasn't too busy looking at the chat as much because I had to be looking at her screen to make it look like I actually ended up giving eye contact. Also looking at her campaign page as well, looking at all of the stuff listed on the site, on her platform page. But as old Trumpy boy says,
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. I got one of the things I wanted to say. I wasn't going to leave it too much there, but we kind of talked about the whole jokey thing with the Tylenol or whatever, and causing autism, and when it comes to public transportation and infrastructure, if Tylenol really caused autism, with the amount of people that take Tylenol in this country, you would think that we would have a fully expanded train system that went from coast to coast, north, south, east, west, and we'd be able to have lots of high-speed rail because of apparently how much folks who are autistic appreciate trains. And I can speak, on that specifically because, one of my children loves trains, also on the spectrum. So, and it is very concerning about the fact that we have this situation where, Linda McMahon of WWE fame, who once, pretended to be a vegetable in a wheelchair watching her husband have an affair with a different woman or whatever. And I believe she was at least had several wrestlers perform their moves on her as well. So yeah, that definitely sounds like the type of person we want as a fully informed and qualified person running the Department of Education. Of course, if all you're trying to do is lay the smackdown on the Department of Education, then maybe somebody from wrestling is what you want, right? So, anyway. So, yes. So we have that, but there is one other thing I wanted to talk about first, which is the issue that took place with... Hold on, let me just... One thing I wanted to talk about. On September 2nd, South Carolina Circuit Judge Diane Goldstein issued a temporary restraining order that prevented the state from turning its voter data over to the Trump administration. 2 days ago, from the point of there, another judge had lifted that injunction. One of the comments that was made by Stephen Miller was after the blocked the administration from accessing South Carolina voter registration data. Stephen Miller was critical of judges who ruled against the administration. He posted that there is a growing movement of left-wing terrorism. And he said this on Saturday, October 4th, 2025. Just hours after Stephen Miller posted, let's see, and of course, wait, the movement of left-wing terrorism was shielded, according to Stephen Miller, by far-left Democrat judges. Hours after Stephen Miller's post, a fire broke out at the home of Judge Goldstein in South Carolina, and that fire injured her husband and her son. And again, this occurred shortly after Judge Goldstein issued a temporary restraining order against the Trump administration regarding voter registration data. And of course, there are other people who have kind of seen the harm of Stephen Miller, and basically Representative Daniel Goldman of New York blamed the fire at the House on the political right. He said the extreme right is to blame for the arson of Judge Diane Goldstein's home. Says Trump, Stephen Miller, and MAGA would have been doxing and threatening judges who rule against Trump, including Judge Goldstein. Today, someone committed arson at the judge's home, severely injuring her husband and son. Will Trump speak out against the extreme right that did this? Goldman said in a post. Of course, Stephen Miller fired back, said, "You are vile, deeply warped and vile." I mean, someone who lives in glass houses should not be throwing stones, eh? While the Trump administration has launched the first ever government-wide effort to combat and prosecute illegal doxing, sinister threats, and political violence, you continue to push despicable lies, demented smears, malicious defamation, and foment unrest. Despicable, as Miller said. Meanwhile, the Democrat AG nominee in Virginia is fantasizing about murdering his opponents, whatever. Goodman shot back. Now try answering my question. If you were trying to combat political violence, why don't you condemn the political violence against a judge who ruled against you in your administration? It's pretty simple. Do you condemn all political violence or only the violence that goes against your supporters? Now, again, as I said on previous shows, I'm not necessarily one who to jump on every potential conspiracy theory that is out there. However, I do find it very suspicious that you had Stephen Miller be very critical and say that that Democratic judges were shielding left-wing supposed terrorists, and then shortly after that happened, one of those Democratic judges had a fire set to her house. So how do you not view that as being potentially connected? Am I saying that Stephen Miller is responsible for actually doing it? Clearly not. But I think that this administration is responsible for much of the violence that comes from the right, because they do work. They are the ones who foment, insurrection. They're the ones who foment fear. They're the ones who try and push their supporters to do these things that are despicable and terrible and horrible, aka deplorable. So Stephen Miller may want to whine and bitch and moan and complain about the fact that people are calling them out on the bullshit, calling them out on their bullshit. Well, the lady doth protest too much, methinks, or I should say the Nazi doth protest too much, methinks, right? Because he's sitting here and, actively supporting the terrible actions and terrible decisions made, and even helping to form the terrible opinions that are part of this administration. So I'm going to sit here and say, no, I don't think that this is necessary. I think this should be investigated completely, but it's not going to be, because who's going to investigate it? Is it going to be the conservative South Carolina government that's going to investigate it, or is it going to be the Donald Trump MAGA administration that's going to investigate it? No, they're going to probably just brush it under the rug as something that, this was just happened to be a coincidence. One has nothing to do with the other, and we're just going to pretend that it didn't happen because, as we all know,
if Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist.
So what do you think? Do you think that this is just a coinky-dink? Do you think that there is definitely connections, and the fact that Miller and Trump and other folks are riling up their rabid base, that now the rabid base is, actually taking action and at the behest or at their word, so to speak? I guess Miller would say that he has plausible deniability because he didn't actually tell people to go attack the House, but, you tell people that the Democratic judges are causing, the Trump plans to be, ignored or whatever, and that allowing these so-called left-wing terrorists to do their actions, and you say it right after a judge made a ruling that you disagreed with, and then that house burns down. The math there seems to be correct on that. That could very well be a reasonable conspiracy theory. Now, if it turns out to be true, great. If it turns out not to be true, it's still reasonable to be suspicious of what went on there. Just saying. Anyway, what's the chance that the judge had cameras around her house? I don't know. I mean, I would hope that they would have. I mean, it's a multi-million-dollar home. I would think that they would have it, or maybe it was a $1 million home. I don't know. I have cameras on my home, but the cost to continue recording the stuff that goes around my might is actually getting a little pricey, and I might find another alternative for that. But everything's getting pricey at this point because, as I said during the interview with Lauren Jewett, my flood insurance is going up from $400 to $1,000, like 250% increase from, or what, maybe 150%, maybe 150% increase from the previous year. Ridiculous. And if I don't renew it, guess what? I then probably have to pay $2,000 to renew it next. So I have to renew it at some point. So there's that. Anyway, but yeah, I would hope, Jeff, I have cameras on my home that are just fake. Well, that sometimes is a good thing too, because I once heard a story of somebody who used to had like a campgrounds or whatever, and all of the camps in this area, all of them had sheds, and each of the sheds they would put all their stuff in their sheds, they'd put a padlock on their sheds, and then they'd come back and all the padlocks were broken and everything from all of the sheds were stolen. So this one guy was like, hey, I'm not going to bother buying a padlock. I'm going to put everything in the shed, and if it's stolen, it's stolen, but I'm not wasting money on a lock. So what happened? His was the only shed that didn't get stuff stolen from, because they looked at the lock and they said, oh, well, there's no lock there. There must not be anything of importance of there. Let's move on. So, outdumbing criminals, I guess, right? So, yeah. But I did have a couple of things that I did want to talk about as it pertained to, Pete Hegseth and his little speech that he gave the other day in front of the generals, basically starting his Third Reich or whatever, his SS, whatever, scary, dangerous stuff. And just all of the things that he said at just going down into nitpicky little areas, to me, were very concerning, to say the least. But there are several things that really stood out from the get-go. For example, they were talking about how they want, unless you're in special forces, that they don't want you having beards. And immediately, my mind there goes to, they don't want Muslims. That's the way that they're going to get around not hiring Muslims into the military, and perhaps other people who might be, have beards more frequently. They want the military to have a specific look amongst them. You know, there are other people who wanted their country and their military to have a specific look about them as well. A certain mustachioed man who didn't even fit that look also wanted to have a specific look. Now, of course, old Pistol Pete, old Pete Hegseth, Kegseth, if you will, he there's a video of him, I'm not showing it, but there's a video of him doing pull-ups. And he's trying to tell us how he can do the drills that everybody who is currently an active, either enlisted or whatever, somebody who's active duty military, or even in our National Guard units. He said he's doing the drills that they can do. Now, I've never served in the military, and I mean, he did a better job than I could have done. I'll give him that. I don't think I could even get one pull-up, let alone several of the pull-ups that he did. But the pull-ups that he did were more like spastic worm on a hook, trying to, like, you know, using more of his total body to try and jerk himself up than to actually pull himself up with the muscles in his arms. I have a feeling that if he had a drill instructor who was sitting there trying to, you know, watch him do those drills, he would call him all sorts of names that will now be legal under the Hegseth policies, because they're going to revamp what it is to be a bully in order for them to be able to discipline and encourage their troops to be the killing, fighting machines that they want the military to be, even though we are still the most dangerous military in the world, and we were the most dangerous and effective military in the world, regardless if it was President Trump, President Obama, President Biden, President Clinton, President Bush, President Reagan, President Bush, whatever. Our military has been the best in the world and will continue to be the best in the world, despite the ridiculousness of this administration and what they claim happens all over the place. But the grooming standards is just one of the several issues. You have the adverse information policy that they're going to be looking over now, which is basically not just you know, they want to basically make sure that there's a preponderance of the evidence for something to go on your record, and that you're not going to get multiple things on the same topic going on somebody's record. And there's going to be, 10 years, I think, a 10-year look back, and after that it's going to just drop off. So if you did something terrible in your service, we could just forget about it after 10 years because you're a totally different person now, right? Right? But one of the most important things that is listed in all of the things that Pete Hegseth wants to do is that Pete Hegseth wants to make it so that you can no longer anonymously report. So if you can no longer anonymously report, fewer people are going to come forward and report harm done to them, especially in cases of rape and sexual assault. And if in those cases then they're not willing to come forward, then that means that more people are going to be getting away with rape and sexual assault as people in the military. And that should be seen as problematic. But Pete Hegseth is probably thinks, well, if you're a tough military person, you should be able to tough it out and be brave and stare your person in the face that you're making an accusation of. But in reality, if you have a support structure, or if you don't have a support structure to help victims come forward and be able to say, this is what happened to me, listen to me, trust me, believe me, you're not going to have that, then people are going to want to make their complaints anonymously, because otherwise they're not going to step forward, because they're going to fear retribution, especially now that they're revamping the bullying policies and allowing certain things to take place that, you know, maybe code reds will be illegal now, or be legal now, right? As if you go back to, you know, you can't handle the truth. Anyway, again, military fitness standards, ridiculous. They're just going to use that as an excuse to get rid of older people in the military that they don't agree with. I guarantee you that the military fitness standards are not going to be universally, subjected to the people in the military. They're going to probably see a conservative MAGA-backing general who might have a few pounds on his waist and might not be able to do the drills that everyone else is supposed to do. And they'll just be like, we'll give you 6 months, go work on it. And then they'll just file that away and forget about it. Meanwhile, if you have somebody that hasn't sworn fealty to this traitorous president, that person will probably be given the door immediately because, oh, sorry, you're a fatty. We don't want fatties around here, right? That's pretty much what they gonna do. And then, again, as I've said before, reviewing of hazing, bullying, and harassment. According to the, I guess, the press release or the memorandum written by old Petey Boy, department policy defining conduct by service members that it constitutes hazing, bullying, and harassment is overly broad, jeopardizing combat readiness, mission accomplishment, and trust in the organization. The trust in the organization is lost when you don't have standards on bullying, hazing, etc., because people don't trust that they're going to be treated as if they should be treated, because despite the fact that they're in the military, you know, you might not want to treat them as humans, old Petey Boy, but they are human beings and shouldn't be subjected to certain things. To minimize lethal and ready, to maintain a lethal and ready force, leaders must be empowered to make the right decisions, enforce standards, and restore good order, which just basically means we don't want people second-guessing our military staff when they decide to beat the hell out of a recruit because that recruit isn't, you know, running as fast as you think he might want to run at the very beginning of said recruiting phase. Like, this is what these policies are for. They're not to make us a more effective fighting force. They're to make it so that they have an easier time getting rid of more people. Why? Because they want the military to be straight, white men who are Christian, period. Onward, Christian soldiers. Everyone else can kick rocks, according to my opinion, at least on what this administration would say as it pertains to maintaining other folks. You know, he kept on saying during the whole speech that if you're a woman and you can do what is required of you to do, then by all means do it and you'll be able to serve. But then he also trying to claim that his rules are going to be gender neutral, but then he says it's going to be male standards. It's going to set it to male standards, which then is not gender neutral. It shouldn't be male standards. It should be the standards that are required for somebody to adequately serve in the role that they're trying to serve this country in. And for different positions, that's going to require different levels of training. And also, again, if you're going to make it so that nobody in the military can be a fatty, if you will, if nobody in the military, if everybody in the military has to follow certain drills and certain things that can be done, whenever, you know, you're going to be missing out on a lot of high qualified people. It's translators, software developers, and other roles where you're going to sit there and be a desk jockey, so to speak. If you're going to sit there and you're going to do your position that doesn't require you to be out in the field actively hunting down and killing people, those people shouldn't need to have the same readiness as the people, you know, out in the field, the people who are working computers. You know, what if somebody has a disability and can't, you know, go serve on the front lines, but they're a good programmer? You're not going to give them a job because, you know, their disability makes it harder for them to work out, to actually be in a tip-top physical shape. Again, you're going to ruin the military readiness. You're going to make it so that we are less of a lethal combat force, simply because you want to make, again, a new Aryan Army 2.0. And if you can't see it, I have to question why you can't see it. Challenge will go to all the conservatives out there to say, hey, you come on and tell me why. Tell me why. Why are these changes good? Why should I not be concerned that keeping software developers out who are chubby? I mean, I'm not trying to apply to a job. I mean, I'm a software developer. I'm happy in my current position. I'm not trying to apply for a job in the military, nor would I want to work under Donald Trump's military to begin with, because I wouldn't want to work for Donald Trump at all, because I don't trust him at all. Don't trust him as far as I can throw him, and with my bad knee, I shouldn't be throwing anybody. Anyway, so what do you think? Agree, disagree, whatever, leave your comments down below, etc., etc. Haven't said that to end the video for a while. Women in the Army have more sway when turning wives, sisters against husbands, brothers, and so on. I don't know what that means. You're welcome, Dawn. Appreciate you. And, you know, glad you like that I'm doing it. Let's see. They want the military full of toxic Trump loyalists. Exactly. Trisha Eastman says, I agree, over on Twitch. Thank you, Trisha. Remember to follow. And if you have YouTube, go subscribe over there as well. Because we're trying to grow the total number of people who are subscribing to the channel, trying to make it even better than what we've had previously. So, but But yeah, there's old Petey Boy and all of the stuff that he wished to say. I don't really know how much I have to talk about. I mean, the Lauren Jewett interview seemed to go really well. And I guess we could open up the phone lines. Why not do that? Let's go ahead and open up the phone lines. 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. If you want to call on, it doesn't look, I haven't seen Big Hook in the chat, so if you want to beat Big Hook to the to it, you know, go ahead and give us a call. We'll hear who you are. Just remember, if you do try and call in while somebody else is on the phone, and you keep doing it, I'm going to block your number, because again, we only have one phone line. So if you call in, if somebody else is on the phone, you can't dial in again, and all it's going to do is you're going to make us hear the beeps, you're going to make us hear all that. It's going to be very distracting, so don't do it. Anyway, hey Josh, good to see you. You can always rewind and watch the rest of it later. Roxanne, this is a very weird question, but I'd like to know if Murdoch and Mr. T, is that what you said, got along and well in real life? Is that what you're trying to say? I pity the fool that asked that question. Sorry. Yeah, there you go. I was right. I read your typo wrong or correctly. Thank you, Trisha. Appreciate you. And I am a sparkler too. So I am a sparkler. You're a sparkler. He's a sparkler. She's a sparkler. But you can also be a liberal Danimal. So there you go. Appreciate you coming on. Again, I am absolutely indebted to House Sparks for everything that he's done for me, for this show. I just re-upped my annual patron purchase to make sure that I continue to support Hal, because again, he is, you know, the reason why I'm monetized. And hey, if you want to support me, there is a Liberal Dan Radio patron, patreon.com/LiberalDan or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way gets you there. You can also support the show by Venmo, Liberal Dan on Venmo, buy me a cider, go to buymeacoffee.com/LiberalDanRadio, or go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, and you'll be able to support the show one time as well. You can buy super chats, super stickers on YouTube. You can buy bits over on Twitch, and of course, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe for Twitch for free. It doesn't cost you anything. But the most important thing to do, especially on YouTube, is to like, comment, share, etc. Make sure to help the algorithm, because as we all know, Al Gore needs more rhythm. And if you want an Al Gore needs more rhythm shirt, you should go to, thank you for the follow. If you want an Al Gore needs more rhythm shirt, you can go to store.liberaldanradio.com, or I think Jolie gave the link probably to the store as well. I know she did, at least on YouTube. But anyway, so Jolie is a Liberal Danimal for 21 months. Thank you. It doesn't seem like I've been monetized that long, but I have been, and if I wouldn't be, because without House Sparks, without Jolie, without Aaron, and without all the other sparklers and or Liberal Danimals who are out there helping make this show great as it can be. So let's see. Yes, again, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261 is the number to call in. We are not going to end the show quite. Oh, there is one thing I did want to watch. Let's do this. Where was that? I had it open, but then for some reason it went away. So there we go. Let's pop open this video. It's on Facebook, so I have to scroll down to it. And let's see. So let's go to the alternate. And we need to turn on the thing. And here is 63rd and Koshner Avenue in the south side of Chicago. If you've not seen this, it's definitely worth a watch. So as you can see, here's a guy with a mask on who's grabbing this Latino individual and has him up against the car, and the Latino individual is kind of fighting back. He slams him on the ground. It says police on the back. But you have a whole bunch of people around. And of course, there he is putting a chokehold on him, which we all know how chokeholds turn out, right? I mean, it's not with his knee, but still. And here's somebody who's just refusing to let go, helping the individual to not be seized. And then here comes somebody else in a mask that just has a t-shirt and blue jeans. Again, t-shirt and blue jeans and a head covering mask, and a walkie-talkie in the back, some sort of radio, and a zip tie. Also zip tie. And again, we're sitting here, we're watching this video from the south side of Chicago. We have two men, one of who says has police, something on the back of their outfit, but who knows if it's legit or not. Then somebody else who doesn't have anything on, just t-shirts and a jean and zip ties, trying to take this person into custody. But what you're also seeing is people interfering with them trying to seize and detain this individual. Let's continue watching it.
Hey, get the fuck out of here! Let me see your fucking face, bro! Let him go!
And they just gave up. They get in their car and they leave. So there's that. So, and what I would say is that, conservatives will be like, oh, that's terrible. You're interfering with the ability of somebody doing their job. They're doing their job. Well, maybe if they did their job properly, you'd have less people complaining about what's going on, but you don't. You have the issue like in Norfolk, Virginia, and everybody who's conservatives will be like, well, Biden let all these people in, we can't help but make some mistakes when we're deporting the people. No, the people who were deported from the Norfolk, Virginia cruise ship terminal have nothing to do with who Biden let in, because those weren't people who were let in during the Biden administration. If you're going to give them that Biden let them in, I have problems with that argument as well, but these people were not let in by Biden. These people came into this country on a cruise ship during the Trump administration, legally capable of working here in this country, and yet they still seized, detained, deported, and banned them from re-entering this country. Over 30 people now. And these people, they didn't prove what they alleged. They alleged that it had some dirty content with children on their phones. And anybody who does have dirty content on their phones, if that would absolutely be somebody who should be deported from this country. I wouldn't argue with that, but they should be required to prove their case, and they never did. The Supreme Court again ruled 9-0 that everybody who's detained should have the ability to challenge their being detained, to file a writ of habeas corpus. They need to be given enough time, but that didn't happen because you have a lawless administration who doesn't care what the courts say. They're going to do what they want to do at the end of the day, and that's it. So maybe if you behaved properly, we wouldn't be as angry, but as long as they're going to behave improperly, we are not going to sit here and support them. And I'm going to sit here and support every single possible, action that's done by individuals who are going to sit here and, try and stop ICE from doing their job, because their job right now has nothing to do with going after people who are illegally. It has to do with going after people who are here, who happen to speak another language or look differently, or who are not basically straight white Christian men, because that's all they care about. That's all they care about. And you can see it with the Bad Bunny thing, because Bad Bunny was announced as the next Super Bowl halftime show, and he said he's going to do it all in Spanish, and everybody's pissed off, saying that ICE is going to be there. Again, Bad Bunny is from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is America. Bad Bunny is a natural U.S. citizen from birth because he was born in Puerto Rico. And if you're too stupid to understand that, you're too stupid to be having any sort of political conversation whatsoever. Fight me. Anyway, thank you, Big Hook, for calling in. We have Big Hook calling in. How are you doing today?
Hanging in there, despite everyone trying to kick me while I'm down,
What's going on? Why? How are they? I mean, besides our nation's being kicked while we're down. Why? How are you being kicked whilst down?
Well, it's funny because I was gonna call in earlier, but the problem is it turns out I'm the lone wolf tonight at my work, and so basically I'm getting swamped. So it's a little difficult to keep up with what the demands are. So, but at any rate, yeah, my point this morning was just when you think things can't get worse, they get worse.
Right.
And that seems to be the stanza that this whole administration is, I mean, whether it be, okay, we're going to double or triple your insurance rates. Oh yeah, we're going to hire a whole bunch of people in government so that way government doesn't work. I mean,
well, that's been conservative. That's been conservative from day one, though. Like conservatives, we're going to tell you how bad government is, and then we're going to prove it by being elected and showing just how bad we are at government.
But that's just it, there should be a requirement that you have to meet when you get elected into Congress. You have to write so many bills, or you have to be, I mean, outside of voting on stuff, I mean, what else is there, right? I mean, unless you're Marjorie Taylor Greene shit-talking constantly.
Right. Well, that's a very easy thing to deal with. For example, if you had that, you would just say, okay, well, here's the bills, and here's what we're going to have Alec write all of our Republican bills, and then we're going to just assign them to all the Republican members. So, everyone has to write 3, then here's everyone's 3, and then, of course, you assign them based on importance to the better ones, whatever, but, I mean...
Well, that's the thing. It's all done by congressional staff, and that's the thing. They aren't actually doing it. They're just basically the spokesperson while the rest of them are doing the work. And this is one of the problems, they let it devolve to this point where, and I mean, they say the same thing about AOC. Oh, she doesn't write any bills. Yeah, she serves on committees and shows all the shit that the Republicans are doing constantly and calling it out. So that way, people are aware of what's going on and that she's fighting for you to make your life better. I mean, oh, but she doesn't write any bills. No, she's doing the other hard task, which is to call out the bullshit and make people aware. She's basically the town crier telling everybody what's going on, and outside of Bernie, I mean, who else is there to do that right now? I mean, the Dems are in a bad place, because no matter what they say or do, it doesn't make any difference because the Republicans are in the majority and there's no way to do things. And I mean, the only pin that they have to pull right now is the Epstein thing, and that requires that last representative to be sworn in, which Johnson isn't going to let happen anytime soon, right? Because he's waiting for Trump to throw some more shit against the wall and distract everybody once again. I mean, I don't know what else to say anymore. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's children, with schoolyard fights and whatnot, It's, what does education mean anymore when these guys can go out there and play dumb all the time and say, oh, I didn't see that. Yes, you did. You saw it happen right in front of your face. Oh, I don't know. You're the head of the house and you don't know what's going on or whatnot. You're supposed to be on top of everything, and that's the thing. It's all a fucking joke with the Republicans. Texas Paul said it best. He said, Democrats know how to make the government run efficiently, cheaper, and everything else. and make sure that there's oversight. And the Republicans, it's just a shit show. Cut and slash here, cut and slash there. Oh, you know, lobbyist payment here, lobbyist payment there. You know, I mean, you know, it's corruption on the highest level, you know. And they're not ashamed of it either. That's the worst part.
They don't know. They don't know shame. Shame is not something that a MAGA person is like. I think when you put on the red hat, it just sucks all the shame that you might have in your body just out of it, never to return again. Like,
yeah, I don't know what to say. You know, like in a household, you'd never be able to get away with this sort of thing.
right.
You know.
Well,
And that's
maybe
the
in
thing.
Trump's household. Maybe in Trump's household he got away with it, and that's why he thinks he can continue to do so. But in normal households, no, you wouldn't.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? It's all evil. And the worst part is that, you know, Merrick Garland, you know, fuck that guy. He didn't go after Trump, and he let it go at the very end when people were screaming at him going, oh, Trump is going to try and come back, and he's going to fuck the country over royally and get revenge on everybody. And he fucking dropped the ball again.
Yeah.
You know?
Then again, so did the voters. I mean, the voters didn't have to elect him in either, but, you know, again, we had racism and sexism won the day. And people don't want to admit it, but it's true. Racism and sexism absolutely won the day because of all the other people that won in all those other states that were swing states. They, you know, if they would have voted for Harris too, we would not have to deal with President von Schitz's pants.
Yeah, but that goes to the point I have, which is I don't think that election was on the up and up. I think there were too many votes that were basically canceled, as well as, you know, like I said, they know who votes and who doesn't, and you know, it's easy enough to electronically say, oh, this person voted for whoever, you know, and let's face it, the only one who probably had the means and whatnot was Musk.
Elon, yep.
You know, and the thing is that he said it himself, and I mean, even Trump said, oh, Elon knows those voting machines really, really well, you know, and it's because he's bragging. He's bragging that he stole it.
Right.
And that's the thing. You know, I hate to say it, but I'm getting depressed watching you guys devolve into this, you know, hellhole that I don't know if you're going to be able to climb out of it, or if you do, it's going to take 20 fucking years. I mean, at this point, I think FIFA should take away the World Cup, and the Olympic Committee should say, you know what? It's not a safe country. You guys are at war with each other, and let's give it to someplace else which already has the existing infrastructure, and we'll hold it there. You know, Australia has pretty much everything from the last time they hosted the Olympics, and
right,
you know, and that would give them an extra 6 months to put it there, you know, because they could say, okay, we're not going to do it in Los Angeles. We'll do it, you know, in the wintertime in Australia. I mean, that makes perfect sense, because that's the best time to do it, you know?
right.
And, you know, and I mean, and then the MAGAs would have to say, well, why did they? Yeah, because you guys are out of control, and it's unsafe to hold an international event there, you know? So, sorry, it's my car
No problem.
telling me to stay awake, drive safe, and don't talk on the phone. Yes.
Yes. Well, at least don't hold your phone while you're driving, right? Hands-free is supposedly okay. Although, back when I did terrestrial radio, when I was on 990 AM, we actually had somebody on the show who actually did say the hands-free isn't the problem. For most people, the problem is the actual conversation being had. It doesn't matter if the conversation is with somebody from the back seat, somebody on your phone, if you're hands-free, if you're not. But there are other people who can have conversations while driving, like super drivers who have no issue with it. Probably all the people whose parents took Tylenol as when they were kids, right? maybe there's a correlation there too that they can confuse, right? So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the other thing. I mean, the days are getting shorter now, and I have to deal with all the other idiots that are out there wearing nothing but black, and then when it rains and they wear nothing but black, they carry around a black umbrella, and then you know, they got their earbuds in, and then they got their face attached to the phone, and they're like, "Oh, it's your job to look out for me." Yeah.
But I have the same beef with a lot of our bicyclists and pedestrians here as well. Like they will constantly be like, "You have to watch out for me." It's like, well, maybe follow the rules to make it easier for me to watch out for you. Like I almost ran 2 people over when I used to do ride sharing because they just drove through intersections. One of them was dressed up as Beetlejuice on a bicycle, just like blew through it, and I slammed on the brakes. I'm like, "Y'all okay?" Yeah. I was like, man, I wouldn't have had enough time to say Beetlejuice 3 times to get him to disappear. Somebody else also, like, he blew through pedestrians that were crossing the street in the same direction as I was going to go. And again, I had to slam on my brakes, and he had the nerve to curse me out because even though I saved his life by being a good driver and watching out for the idiots around me, because I'm the type of person that looks both ways down a one-way street, because that's how little faith I have in humanity at this point.
You and me both. I've had a number of close calls where people just aren't paying attention, and they don't even stop to look as to whether or not it's safe to cross the street. They look, and then they just walk straight, and they go, "Oh, you know what?" And they expect me to do the thinking and the looking for them, right? And,
right.
You know.
Well, maybe they're living in this dystopia. They just don't care anymore. They're like, "Oh, if I go, I go."
Yeah. I don't know, Dan. I am really worried about what's going on down there. And, you know, like, he's going to basically completely militarize ICE. And, you know, I mean, they're going to start doing the door-to-door shit where they're going to be like, "Are you hiding immigrants?" Right. You know, it'll be like the rounding up of the Jews during World War II, you know, and...
Well, that's why we need more people like that video. The video just showed. That's why we need more people like that video who are going to step up and say, "No, we will not let you do these horrible things in our communities because you are not acting like a trustworthy entity of government." Not that there are many of those that exist anyway, especially under Trump, but still.
Well, this is the thing. They haven't had to pay a price. They can read the situation, but I mean, you had that other situation there, like in Chicago, where ICE got boxed in by a bunch of cars, and they freaked out, and they exited the vehicle and shot up 10 cars, and then they went around looking, and they found one single woman who had a pistol on her, and said, "Oh, she's the scapegoat. She's the one that we're going to blame for all this," and say that we were. You know, and I mean, this is the thing, right? I mean, like, where do you go with this now? You know, because at this point, they're the ones escalating. They're the ones that want to take it to guerrilla warfare, you know, and I don't know if you're going to be able to bring it back from the verge of that. That's the thing that worries me, you know. I mean, your rights are being trampled on to such an extent that I don't know if there's any coming back unless you guys are going to do the national divorce option, which is, you know, you go and you live your stupid life your way, and we'll live ours our way, and you know, and you won't get the benefit of our taxes or any of our infrastructure or anything, and you'll pay higher tariffs because we're the states that produce things, including a lot of the food. And if you want the food, you're going to have to pay an extra going rate for it, you know, that sort of thing. You know, I mean, Walmart has closed down, 200 stores so far, and they're closing stores here in Canada as well.
Wow.
You know, I mean, Heather Cox Richardson did a great breakdown, and she said, he's broken all the logistic supply chains and with the tariffs and whatnot, and stuff is just sitting there because nobody can afford to pay for it.
Right.
I don't know what to do with this scenario because, he's put himself in a box and there's no way to get out of it unless he simply says, oh, I fucked up and let's go back to what we had before. And he's unwilling to do that. That's the worst part, is knowing that he's incapable of admitting that he's wrong.
Right.
That's what worries me the most. So I don't know what I should say or do. There's not much I can do other than I do my online stuff within the chats and whatnot, but that's all I can do. I can tell people, wear a mask and sunglasses. Make sure that your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth are turned off and remove your SIM. So that way you don't risk, getting your phone hijacked and allowing them to identify you and whatnot. I mean, they've got social media tracking stuff now too, right? So,
right.
I don't know. That pretty much more or less renders your phones, unusable. And then the other thing is now you need to have a VPN because otherwise they're going to use that for location data, right? So, and now they're talking about banning VPNs. That's the latest.
Jesus.
Like I said, you guys have gone pretty much full authoritarian, and that's quite worrying. So, but at any rate, I have to continue on with my work here, so I'm going to have to cut it short today.
All right,
I know
no
people
problem.
enjoy listening to me and whatnot, and I wish I had something more positive to say, but unfortunately I can't. And I think everyone is in the same situation. You're all scratching your head going, God, what's going to fall from the sky next? It's really disconcerting,
Right.
If I had the answers, I'd tell you what to do, but unfortunately I'm out of ideas other than vote and make sure that everybody that votes and takes these guys completely out of power. And then you got to completely rebuild everything. And then the other thing is you got to make accountability. You cannot let this stand, because if you let them get away with it this time, they'll come back and do it all over again.
Right.
But at any rate. Okay, you finish out your night, Dan. Hopefully put something there for you guys.
Well, we appreciate you as always. Have a good rest of your night, Big Hook.
Thank you. You too.
All
Bye.
right, bye. All right, Big Hook, everyone. Let's pop back over here. Show the phone lines again. 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261. Hey, Karen Ames, good to see you over in the YouTube chat as well. Yeah, to Trish, there's plenty of ways out of it. It's just, sometimes we just feel like, the ways out of it are the worst ways out of it. So, anyway. So yeah, there's that. We're going to leave the phone line open just a little bit more at least, but we may go ahead. Not too much left to talk about today. We could, look at the news, I guess, or whatever, and see if there's any other stories that we might want to pounce on today, or have some discussions about. Of course, yeah, we got Illinois and Chicago suing to block the deployment of National Guard's troops. Of course, there was a judge who's going to make a ruling on it Thursday, but it didn't put a stay on the action until Thursday. So what the hell? You're going to say, okay, you can do it, temporarily, and then come Thursday around once you've deployed all the troops and then say, no, you can't take them back, then is Trump going to really listen? Is Trump then really going to take them back? I don't believe so, because Donald Trump has avoided what we would call a tradition in this country to, follow the idea that we have three co-equal branches of government that allows, and so when the court rules against you and the administration, you say, okay, I'll listen to you even if I don't like it, and we'll follow through even though I don't like it. Trump's like, nope, I'm going to continue doing what I'm going to do because I don't give a shit because I'm a lawless president. We have a lawless administration. But anyway. Of course, Trump's own judicial nominee or appointee blocked Oregon troop deployment twice. So now because of course, if you don't swear fealty to him, if you turn your back on him and Donald Trump, whatever, he's not going to be happy with you whatsoever. NPR is reporting that psychiatrists are calling for RFK Jr. to be replaced as health secretary. Will Donald Trump listen? Probably not. Will it have any effect? Probably not. NPR also says that the CDC says people must consult a health professional before COVID shot. The Centers for Disease Control and Preventive Medicine Monday accepted controversial new guidance for the updated COVID-19 vaccines that could make it harder for many people to protect themselves this winter. According to CDC Director Jim O'Neill, agreed to the recommendations for the COVID shots. RFK Jr.'s handpicked advisory committee. Unlike earlier years, the new guidelines call for people to talk to a doctor, pharmacist, or some other healthcare provider about the risks and benefits of getting vaccinated before they get a shot. This extra step is called shared decision-making or individual-based decision-making, according to the language of the press release. The move is the final action necessary for implementing new guidelines, which affect who can get and give the COVID shot, whether the vaccination will be covered by private and government insurance without co-payments. I guess I can get mine anyway, because regardless of co-payments, I'm at my max out of pocket. So let's see. CDC immunization schedule adopts individual-based decision-making for COVID-19 and standalone vaccination for chickenpox in toddlers. The Centers for Disease Control updated its adult and child immunization schedules to apply individual-based decision-making to COVID-19. Of course, if you're stopping people from being able to get it by themselves, then it really isn't individual decision-making now, is it? Informed consent is back, said Secretary O'Neill. CDC's 2022 blanket recommendation for perpetual COVID-19 boosters deterred healthcare providers from talking about the risks and benefits of the vaccination. Says who? If I was worried about the risks and benefits, I could still have a conversation with my doctor regardless of whether or not it was required to be done by the CDC. So you're putting more requirements. You're not giving individual decisions. You're giving more requirements on the individuals and preventing them from getting it unless they jump through the hoops, because you don't want people. This is the hypocrisy of the conservative movement. One of the many hypocrisies of the conservative movement, which is they don't want you to be able to make your own decisions about yourself, even though they would love to be able to make their own decisions about themselves. Because as long as it's them making the decisions for themselves, they can make the decisions and government shouldn't be involved. But when it's us doing it and we're doing something that they don't agree with, they don't understand, most likely they don't understand, they're going to try and step up and say, nope, sorry, you can't do it because we're a bunch of idiots. So individual-based decision-making is referred to on CDC's immunization schedules as vaccination based on shared clinical decision-making, which references providers, including physicians, nurses, and pharmacists. This means the clinical decision to vaccinate should be based on patient characteristics that, unlike age, are difficult to incorporate in recommendations, including risk factors for underlying disease, as well as the characteristics, blah, blah, blah. Basically, more people are going to be sick, more people are going to get COVID, and more people will unfortunately die under this administration. But we already knew that was going to happen because that's what happened during the last administration, and why should this administration be any different than his last one? So, anyway, there's that. What other stupidity do we have coming? Redistricting spreads among states after Trump's urging. Of course, that's not news. We've seen that going, on altogether. Federal retirement meets shutdown risks, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so it doesn't look like anybody else is going to call in, and we're just about at 10 o'clock, so I think it's a good idea that we can go ahead and shut down the phone lines. We don't need to, if anybody was going to call in, they would have called in. But anyway, so we turned that one off. We pretty much have what I wanted to talk about today. Again, tomorrow we're still going to be doing the Nerdy Dan stream. In the short term, that'll be the case until I decide what day of the week I should do a third Liberal Dan Radio. And it's not going to be Tuesdays because it doesn't make sense to just do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then skip 4 days. But we're going to try and figure out exactly what day it should be. If it's going to be like Sunday, if it's going to be Thursday, we will try and see what's going on with it. Or maybe we do it at an oddball time that like different than 8 p.m. on some other day. I don't know. Can't be Saturdays because I have kids bowling on Saturdays. It's on Saturdays. I don't know. So we're going to make that decision when we get there. You know, it is what it is. So let's go ahead and call this one over. Again, we'll leave up the chat thread up, and we'll see. My head is spinning from Trisha, says, from the constant breaking news. Nice to finally meet you. Nice to finally meet you as well. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody, all the new followers, all the new listeners, etc. Love when more sparklers join the fray and become liberal Danimals as well. So until, again, at this point, Wednesday will be our next show. Again, if you want to join me on twitch.tv/nerdydan.com, I'll be on Tuesday playing some games, and we can always talk politics then as well. Unless something big happens, then I'll go ahead. Actually, no. I'm wrong. I am not going to be doing Nerdy Dan tomorrow. I just remember, I have a work dinner. I'm actually going into work for half the day, and then the vendor is taking a bunch of us out to dinner. So I have a work dinner to go to, so I won't be doing nerdydan.com tomorrow. Apologies, mea culpa. But I'll be back Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel, and then we'll figure everything out as well. So good thing I remembered that one. I mean, not that many people come to the Nerdy Dan stream anyway. One of the reasons why I'm considering dropping it. But, you know, it is what it is. Maybe I'll stream another day this week. Maybe I'll stream after Wednesday's show. I don't know. We'll see. But until then, thank y'all very much for watching. Appreciate y'all. Remember to like, share, subscribe, help the algorithm. Because as we all know, Al Gore needs more rhythm. And we are going to play some Liberal Dan Radio created music just for the podcast. These songs are both on the YouTube channel and on Spotify. So until next time, have a good one, y'all. Peace.
Gather round, everyone, and I'll tell you a tale about an orange-faced buffoon who should be in a jail. When people say he's done something that goes beyond the pale, he will shake his head and give this answer without fail. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, he says he tells no lies and that he never jokes. Confronting with the truth, he'll say it's all a hoax. A modern Don Quixote, he hates the windmills, claiming to protect the birds and whales he says they kill. But don't believe that story, it's really just a shill. He just did not want to see them wild golfing on Scottish hills. A hoax, he said it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, changing a storm path with black marker strokes. Confronted with the truth, to say it's all a hoax. Casting mail-in ballots is something that he's done. Now he wants to ban them for each and every one. He claims it's for integrity in each election, but he won't believe the results unless it's him that's won. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When at a press conference or with misspelled keystrokes, they'll fool you with distractions like real sugar in Cokes. Confronted with the truth, you'll say it's all a hoax. He promised to release all the Epstein files that caused all the MAGA base to react with smiles. But how long has he put it off? It sure has been a while, and now he's calling this a hoax, protecting pedophiles. A hoax, he says it's all a hoax. When invited the Taliban to come to US soil. If Joe had done that, they'd all recoil. Had Biden done it, might no one flip. Had Biden done it, full numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd want him to pay. But Trump did, so it must be okay. Double standards loud and clear. Rules for Trump, but not for peers. What they call treason if Joe's the name is patriotism when Donald's to blame. Had Biden done it, might no one flip. Had Biden done it, full numbers would slip. Had Biden done it, they'd shout no way. But Trump did it, so it must be okay.
Obama and Bush's pictures got hidden, obscuring the past, history rewritten. Hung in a hallway where no tour can see, confirming his unending fragility. If Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, he must not exist. Stop the testing was the line that he said. Hundreds of thousands needlessly dead. Now HHS is run by brainworm quack, hiding the truth behind his back. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. An administration run by narcissists. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Boxes of documents stacked floor to the wall. Top secret folders in a bathroom stall. Charges were pressed, but the case was dropped. A corrupt judicial system he can co-opt. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. He'll swear it's fake news, a liberal twist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist. Encampments downtown, tents lining the street. Invisible people that power won't need. Hide them away so the cameras can't find it. Proof of a system that's cold and unkind. Of chaotic secret and NDA sign. An illegal bribe, Michael Cohen fine. Trump got fined too over his gag order, but she didn't gag, cause he was much shorter. If you can't see it, it must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. We can't let him win, we must resist. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
They wrote it in the laws, ink still bleeds. Treating women like soil, just planting seeds. She's gone, brain dead, not even awake. But the state's got a claim, gonna plant its stake. Say it's God's will, say it's life they protect. But they ain't the ones feeling pain or neglect. From Texas to Georgia, they set the trap. Rights roll back while they smile and clap. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey MAGA fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. This ain't pro-life, it's control and shame. They don't care if she's gone, just playing a game. Keep her hooked to machines, cold and still, just a vessel to them, not a human with will. No consent, no voice, no chance to resist. Just laws in place, written with a clenched fist. Hospitals scared, judges playing God. Bodies ain't temples, just state-owned pods. Gilead's here, this is true. Hey, mega fools, they'll come for you too. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Bands in the dark, they don't care who it kills. Sacking courts while they strip out all of your wills. But we'll fight back, march loud, burn bright. Cause this ain't the end, it's the start of the fight. Gilead's here, ain't no grace. And those leopards are coming to eat your face. So I'm gonna jet, see you later. I'm not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator. Not gonna be a baby incubator.
The creative director at WGSO had a little something he thought you should know. When Dan picked on his bits, Steve got real gruff. So Steve called Dan a flake, called him liberal dandruff. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. Steve's about to find out his mistake. In this feud, Dan's Kendrick, Steve is Drake. Dan might not be the world's best singer, but he's got more talent in his little finger. Steve thinks that his lines are really clever, but when do people ever like him? Never. Liberal Dan's got better lyrics, this is true. Listen and you'll feel like I do. Liberal Dan, his show is great. Liberal Dan, he goes live at 8. Liberal Dan radio, it's the best, cause Liberal Dan's head and shoulders above the rest. First you get down on your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect, and genuflect, 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 genuflect. Do whatever steps you want if you have cleared them with the pontiff. Everybody say his own. Huey, hey, a Leia song, doing the Vatican rap. Get in line in that processional, step into that small confessional. They're the guy who's got religional, tell you if your sin's original. If it is, try playing it safer. Drink the wine and chew the wafer. 2, 4, 6, 8. Time to transubstantiate. So get down upon your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect, and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Make a cross on your abdomen, we're in a Roman, do like a Roman. Ave Maria, damn it's good to see ya. Getting ecstatic and sorta dramatic and doing the Vatican rap.